Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to talk about a movie called Willard. And before I do that, just keep in mind there are some people who watch almost every video, possibly, and so I really need to give a little update about a certain situation, because if you guys don't know, I have always lived in a house from the 1860s, and it's not only a house, it's a shed, and the driveway started off as a railroad. It is an extremely historical property. It is an extremely valuable property to be in, and it should not be torn down in any way, shape, or form. But there is a company called Kerwin Purple, or as I like to call them, Queerwin Purple, or Purple Nurple. They have decided that, now they're going to tear the property down, along with all the other historical properties around here, and they're going to build a Stepford Wives-style development on top of it, where people can go, they can live their meaningless suburban lives, and they can just all be a bunch of zombies together. And the thing is that they don't even realize that, like, that's the reason why people moved here, was so that they could see stuff like this, and so that they could live in areas where it was quiet, and where it was, you had space, and you had historical places to look at like this. It's especially troubling because we're in between Beaver Creek and Xenia. And in Xenia, they had all these historical houses wiped out by a horrible tornado this one year. It's a historical event that happened, and it was so bad that, like, they had to rebuild, like, almost all of the buildings on top of that. And so, like, why would they want to manually tear down history after a couple of miles away you had a tornado do it all for them? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, it just shows how greedy and evil and disgusting people have gotten nowadays, that they think that this is acceptable. And so here's the thing. I'd like to also talk a little bit about yesterday's video. Basically what happened was that I decided that I should make my own video about my cursed brick. And I thought that would be good because it would be a serious video. And what happened was it synchronized perfectly with when this guy came here to inspect the house and to take samples from the building. And, like, I have no idea why they'd be doing that. And so that guy came, and a couple of things happened that, that really let me know that this is not going to turn out the way that they think it's going to turn out. Things, the wheels are already turning, the cogs are already, moving around. This is not going to end the way that they wanted it to. Let's just say that. Because what happened was, and now I did this just as like a simple, like, I thought, okay, this will be like a simple thing that I could do. I took my shoe and I drew an upside down cross on the driveway in this little circle area. And what happened was, the inspector parked his car right on top of it. And so he literally fell right into my trap. And so that right there, that already did something probably. And then after that, the whole time he was here, basically, I was doing this video. And the video was sort of like, it was something, I don't know, something must be significant with doing the video at the same time that guy was here. Because not only did he hardly spent any time here at all. He didn't even really walk around the yard very much at all. It was like he had to get out. And not only that, but he said that his brother had just died last week. Right when they decided that they were going to kick us out, his brother died. and he was very sad. He's very, very sad about his brother. Wah. And so he was really sad and upset, and it was so hilarious. Because it's like, it just shows these people, they're going to get what's coming to them, that's for damn sure. And so I thought that was pretty funny. I don't know, it must be some really weird thing that's going on, that like, the good spirit is helping me, and now she's reversing everything. Because something else that happened, and I'm talking about this because it's also relevant to this movie, if you guys want to know the truth. What happened was, this whole year, I've not only seen tons and tons of movies where the main characters lose their house or their house gets torn down. That was like a warning sign. But I had also seen a lot of movies where the house gets burnt down, or where they're in somewhere and they get burned alive, like all this burning. And I think what happened was, both these things are going to now reverse, because what happened was, the night before the inspector came here, what I did was, I went out to the backyard and I took the model of the house that I made for the movie, and I burnt that completely. And it looked exactly like I imagined it would look, and it was perfect. It was probably the greatest fire I've ever seen, because I made sugar glass for the windows, and it made the burning just look so cool and so awesome. And I think that was a reversal, that originally maybe our house was supposed to burn down, and I think that it ended up being that it's just the model that's going to burn down. And so I think that that's already one of the reversals of these bad things that was supposed to happen. And so I really, really believe that we are not going to lose this house, and that they are not going to get to do what they wanted to do, because things are already happening. I mean, just the fact that, like, okay, so that's all that stuff. And then also too, one of the drawings that I had drawn, one of those weird drawings that I couldn't decipher, well, I figured out that it was a drawing of the inspector. You know why I know that? Because he was wearing the same color shirt of the person in the picture, and he had the same hair. And guess what? The wallpaper that I had drawn, it looks like the wallpaper in my room. And guess where the guy went to take samples? My room. And then there's this shot of him looking out the window, and you can see this scratch on the window, and that scratch was just a grapevine that was growing. And so that was already written in place. And so I guess things are going to really turn out good, because that was already pictured. I drew that in July. I didn't know anything about this or anything, didn't have any knowledge of this. So it just shows these people are in for hell. That's for damn sure. And I can't wait to see them all get theirs, because for them to do this to us is just complete, total evil. And so now let's talk about the movie, because the movie connects to it too. This movie, I watched Willard. And what happened was, I wanted to do the damn interview, because we did a test interview last night. I wanted to do the interview for real today. But I guess she just didn't want to do it, and so I maybe we'll do it today or tomorrow, because then as soon as we do the interview, she's going to throw that fucking piece away for good, and all the bad luck is going to go away, because we got rid of the cursed object, finally. So I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I wanted to get rid of that fucking brick piece that has cursed me for 3 years. I want to get rid of that right now. Like, I would literally, if I could, I would drive all the way down to Florida where she lives, take the piece from her myself, and then just throw it away, throw it away and say, F off. And so I watched Willard just for fun, and I thought the poster looked cool. It has like a eerie, old-style poster to it. I thought it looked like a really nice poster. And I was really excited to watch it, actually. I thought, like, I've never seen it. I wanted to see the Crispin Glover version when I was a kid, because I had seen the poster all the time in Hollywood Video, but I had never gotten around to watching it. I'm glad that I watched this one first, though, because I think this one will probably be better. So it's basically all about this guy named Willard, and he has a terrible situation going on. He has this terrible boss who is basically, his boss is the devil in human form. Like, he's played by Ernest Borgnine, which that was the big surprise for me, was that I thought, like, Ernest Borgnine, he's such a good guy. Like in Marty, he's such a nice guy that you really want to root for and love, and he really played an evil character to the point of where I was furious with this character by the end of the movie, to the point of where, like, I was ready to jump through the screen and kill him myself. Like, that's how evil I thought this guy was. And so he's done all this terrible stuff to Willard, the main guy, and he treats him terribly. You know, the movie opens up with him and his friend, like, make him late for his bus, which makes him late for work. And then, of course, he yells at him at work in front of everyone. Like, he is terrible character. But that's exactly what you want in this type of movie. You want characters that are terrible, because then you'll be satisfied when the rats kill them. Which, this movie is a slow burn, I will say that. Like, it has a weird pace, because it just goes on and on and on. And then by the end, it's like, oh, finally something happens. Like, it's a very strange pace. The whole movie is basically built around tormenting this main character and making him go through the worst shit possible. And then at the end, it's like everything blows up in his face. It's a pretty good movie, I gotta say. Like, it could have been better. You know, there's lots of stuff about it that I would have probably changed. But overall, I would say it was a good movie. It was simplistic, but good. And the main character, he lives with his mom, and they live in this big old house. And she's Elsa Lancaster from Bride of Frankenstein. And I'm hinting at you guys these little signs here. And the signs will become more apparent as we talk about the film. So, and I really thought Elsa Lancaster did a really good job. Like, even though she's pretty older in this film, like, I gotta say, she still looks really, really good. And she did a really good job as, like, this loony mother, but you kind of understand by the end that she was loony because of Ernest's character, the boss. He ended up doing so many bad things that, you know, she just ended up becoming sick and dying. And so it's all because of this human character. And that's sort of the ironic part, is that you have a villain in the boss, and he's caused people's deaths. He's basically trying to kill Willard by ruining his life. And then you have the rats who kill people too. And it's like you have these two villains that are, you have animal and human. And it's like this strange little thing here that you have where, you know, you could have a little discussion about I don't know, about nature, I don't know. It's very strange. It's a very interesting movie. And so the main character, Willard, he has a birthday party and it goes terribly. And that's when he first goes outside and he meets a rat in the pool. And he gives the rat a piece of his birthday cake. And then he starts becoming friends with the rats. And then he trains them and he has them do stuff for him. And it's a nice story because, like, a lot of it is just no dialogue, or just him talking to the rats, like him and the rats. Like, it's not a lot of him and other people, it's him and the rats, and it's really fun. It's like, I never really liked rats before, but I like movies like this because you actually start to like these types of animals and you start to see like a different side of them. And because now I feel terrible because when I was a kid, my brother did something really strange where he bought these two mice for me, and one of them was white and the other one was brown, and we named them Clark and Lex from Smallville, and he gave them to me as pets. And I had forgotten to feed them. And so then my mom had to feed them because I was just so busy doing homework from school that I would completely forget. And they ended up starving to death. And it's like, now I feel terrible because it's like, that's terrible. And so, like, I don't know. I was a kid. I was a little tiny kid. And I don't know why they expect... very strange with that, because they always helped take care of any pets that we had, and then all of a sudden they gave me these two mice that they just like put in my room. And keep in mind, I would hardly go in my room. Like, I would spend all day at the computer or in the living room on the floor, like drawing and watching TV. I would never even go in my room. And they gave me those mice in my room. It was a stupid thing to do. But I feel bad now because after watching this movie, because these rats are cool. They seem like nice little creatures. Like, it's kind of creepy watching them like grow and grow and grow. The way that they just have so many babies that like there's these parts where you see like just the basement is full of rats. And it's not really creepy. It's just like, like there's just so many of them. It's like, it'd just be nicer if it was like one or two rats, like just the main two, because there are two main rats. You have Socrates, which is the white rat, and then you have Ben. Ben, and Ben is like this gray rat. And I really like Socrates. Okay, now we're going to get into spoilers a little bit. The hardest part of the movie to watch was when, he was starting to bring these two rats to work. And I thought that was very strange because, like, why? Because all he would do is just lock them in the closet, like he wouldn't even play with them or anything. And it's like, might as well just keep them at home. It was kind of like an idiotic thing to do, to take these rats to work to begin with. And so what ends up happening is, of course, I thought one day they're going to find out, and they did. And what happened was the boss came in and he killed Socrates. And it was a very hard sequence to watch, because he takes like a stick and he just like, it's very hard to watch, and there's blood all over it, and it's like, it is so like cruel and evil, and that was really painful. And then Ben, the other rat, he's really pissed off, and so I was really surprised that Socrates got killed, because I thought he would be the leader. He's the smart one, but no. The dumb aggressive one becomes the main leader of the rats. And he's not a very good rat. Like, he doesn't follow Willard's orders. You can tell that there's some conflict that's going to happen with Willard and Ben. And so I like that too. These rats are like characters. That's another thing that I liked, was that it wasn't just, oh, look, he has some rats and they're his, he has a rat army, like in, what was that, Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad, you had that rat catcher too, and it's like, oh, look, I have a bunch of rats, and it's like, oh, wow, they're not even characters, though, but in this movie, they're characters for sure, like, they're distinct characters, and it's really fun watching the rats, so I really have to applaud them for doing something different, and for making a movie like this that, you don't really see a lot of movies with killer rats, or, whenever you see a movie with a rat, it's just, oh, look, there's a rat, ah! And then that's it, it's never as interesting as this. So, good idea. I would say it could have been better, though. We'll talk about the ending, because that's where things really got kind of disappointing a little bit. And so that's where it kind of came into where I was like, I like that, but I didn't like that. So, another thing that happens is that he ends up working with this girl, this temporary girl, who's there to help him, because the boss has such little faith in him, and she's a really beautiful blonde girl. She was Clint Eastwood's girlfriend, and she was also the girl from Sudden Impact, and I got to admit, like, she looks a lot better in this than she did in Sudden Impact. Like, she looks really pretty, and she has, like, a really simplistic, like, look. But it's weird because her story with him is, like, really, really underdeveloped, to where they just talk kinda sometimes, and then she walks around with him and discusses stuff sometimes, and then this one time she gives him a cat, and he just gets rid of the cat. And it's like, they don't really have, like, anything. Like, it's like, oh, they're just two people that, like, I guess like each other. Like, it doesn't really feel like they have much of a relationship. And so I would say that was one of the weakest parts of the movie, was the fact that they didn't develop that relationship more. She's a very good actress, this woman, Sandra. And I thought that she really should have been more a part of the movie, and they should have made it longer just to do that, to have more of her, because I thought she was wasted. I really honestly don't even see a point to her being in the movie, because she's a love interest, but there's no love interest in it. Like, I'm interested for sure. Like, I kind of was like, okay, if she was working with me, I'd definitely have a crush on her, but I didn't see really any love interest from him. All he does in the movie is just focus on his boss, his mom, and the rats, and that's it. Pretty much everything else is like, who cares? So what ends up happening is his mom dies, so he has the house all to himself, and what his mom didn't mention was that the house still had a mortgage. And so he had to find some way to pay the mortgage, even though he is staying in this small position, and his boss will never ever give him any higher position. He'll never give him any raise. He's just staying in this small position where the boss can control him. Sort of like Chuck did to Jimmy in Better Call Saul. It's same type of thing. And so what happens is then his house is under threat. And so, see? And here's the really creepy part. There's a man who comes on screen, and he informs him about the house, and he tells him about it. And guess who that guy's name is on the cast list? Carlson, as in Marco Carlson, Sophie Carlson. Carlson is the one who comes on, informs him, your house, you gotta get rid of it. It's done. He's the one who does that. And so there's that stuff with him. So I'll say that, like, that right there, that's a little sign right there. And so that's why I really had to watch this movie, I guess, was because it's a part of this spell. It's a part of this magic that's going on that I can't even control, basically. Like, I don't know what's going on. But as long as I keep this house, then I'm fine. And so what happens is the rest of the movie is really just him trying to keep his house. Just like with me. And he's having all this trouble. He's going to people saying, hey, can you give me money to pay off the mortgage? Can you give me money? Like, there's this one bitch. I thought that this woman was terrible. She was the friend of the mom. And the mom died in her arms, and she promised that she would take care of Willard. And then guess what she does? She refuses to help, even give him a little bit of money to help pay the mortgage. And it's like, wow, you really wanted to help him a lot, didn't you? And like, everyone was really pressuring him too, like, you're just this young guy, and you don't want to live in this big old house. Like, you don't want to do that. And it's like, why are all these people telling him what he wants to do? Like, like, if he wants to do that, then that's fine. Like, it was a really cool looking house too, especially like the dining room area and everything. It looked like a really cool house. So what ends up happening is, he keeps the house because he ends up having the rats help him steal money from this rich guy. And so, once again, I'm watching a movie where, he saves his house. He keeps it. And so that's a sign right there. Instead of watching movies where people lose their house, I'm now watching movies where people keep their house. And I didn't do it on purpose either. I just picked it because I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to watch Willard finally, after all these years of seeing the poster. And so, it had to happen for a reason, watching Willard. So what ends up happening after he keeps his house, is that, he's sick of his boss. His boss fires him because his boss thinks that if he fires him, he can then force him to sell the house to him so that he can have money. And so Willard takes the rats to the boss, and he has the rats kill the boss. And that was very, very satisfying. That was probably the best scene of the whole movie, because it was like, yeah, get that piece of shit out of here. And of course, nobody can blame him because rats did it. Wink, wink. I thought that was cool. That was definitely like a highlight of horror history, of just seeing this evil character get killed finally. Like, that's always a really good part in horror movies, when you see characters who you hate get killed in the most brutal way possible. That's definitely something good. After that, it gets a little screwy, because he's sick of the rats after they helped him with keeping his house. And so what he starts doing is he starts killing all the rats, and he drowns them. Like, it's really uncomfortable. He takes all the rats and he sticks them underneath the water and drowns them. And it's like, this is really dark. And then he buries all the cages in the ground. Like, this guy's really, I don't know, like, it's weird, because the whole movie, you're spending it sympathizing with Willard, and you want Willard to succeed. And then all of a sudden, once he reaches his goal, he does some evil shit, and he starts doing stuff that, I would never have done that. Like, it was just, he was frustrated with the amount of rats. And he was frustrated with how, probably, like, you couldn't really live a normal life if you had a basement full of rats. Like, I would never want to live a life like that, ever. And, so he couldn't probably have a wife and children, because he'd have to deal with these rats all over the place. I mean, that would just be a nightmare. And so after he kills them, the one that he doesn't get to is Ben. And Ben is pissed off. And so there's this fantastic suspenseful sequence where he's eating dinner with the main quote-unquote love interest, and then he sees Ben, and Ben has he has an angry face. Like, I've never seen a rat have an angry face. It looked really creepy and really cool. And then he's like, oh shit, and he's like, I gotta get this girl out of here. And that's where the movie really falls apart, was because, number one, they had also done some fake foreshadowing where they had this newspaper, and it said, it had a headline that said human-sized rats. And so I was expecting to see a human-sized rat by the end of the movie. And so I guess maybe that was just symbolic for Willard being a human-sized rat or something. I don't know. I kind of already assumed that before I started watching the movie, so I really don't know why they had to focus in on a newspaper that said that if they weren't going to have that pay off. So that would be complaint number one. I really wanted to see a human-sized rat. I thought that would have been so much scarier, because what ends up happening is that he tells the girl to leave, and so then she's not in danger. So then you removed somebody who we care about, because, let's be honest, Willard just killed all these rats for no reason. I don't like him very much anymore. He's weird. It's like, why did he do that? They just helped save his house, and then he kills them all. And so they took away the only character that we would care about her getting hurt. And then she doesn't even care about the fact that she can't see that his cat, she gave him a fucking cat to keep named Chloe. And then he got rid of it, and she doesn't even care or notice. And so I thought that was strange. And then the rats chase him around, and he sees, even though he thought he killed all the rats somehow still got in, and more got in. And the basement is full of them. And then he says, okay, Ben, let's make a deal. I'm going to feed you guys, and then you guys can leave. And instead, he gets some pesticides so that he can poison them. And Ben gets really pissed off, and he orders all the rats to come and attack him. And they have this chase into the attic. And it's really sad, because I thought that this could have been the highlight of the movie. That, now that he took out the human villain, he's sort of grown as a person. He's now more confident in everything. And so it would have been so much cooler to see him now. He has to defeat the animal villain, the rats. And instead, it's just kind of like a Tales from the Crypt type of thing that happens where, he runs into the attic, then all the rats kill him, and Ben sits there, and Ben looks really happy that Willard just got killed. And I thought it could have been so much better, because the attic looked really creepy because it didn't have any lights on. I thought they really missed the opportunity to have the rats chew out the power lines to make it where the whole house is dark, and you could have had this really creepy, intense sequence where he's being chased by the rats through this house and he's trying to escape, and then maybe he comes across the human-sized rat, he kills the human-sized rat, and then he's got to kill all the other rats as well. That would have been so much better than just, he runs upstairs, he gets killed by the rats, and that's it. It was very kind of anticlimactic, in my opinion. It was very predictable, too. The fact that, of course, he gets killed at the end by the rats. Wow. I still like the movie, though. I would say it's a mid-level movie. It's not anything special, but it's not anything terrible. It was satisfying to see him keep his house. It was satisfying to see the boss get killed, because, God, that Ernest Borgnine, he really plays a good villain. I mean, he plays a good hero. He plays a good guy. But when he plays a villain, he really plays a villain well. Like, it's almost like he was born to play a villain. Like, that's how evil he was in this movie, surprisingly. So I have to give this a really simple meal. I would say that this is sort of like a chicken breast that you cook in the oven with salt and pepper. Then you have mashed potato and gravy, and you have corn. You know, it's a very, very simple meal that you just like, oh, I'm just going to throw that meal together. And it's not really anything like, oh, I didn't expect that. Like, you know, you expected everything. It was definitely something where they could have made it better. They could have definitely made some improvements. And I'd be curious to know if anyone's seen the Crispin Glover version. Did they do anything to improve it that was sort of like what I had in mind? Or did they just sort of copy it? Because, I don't know. There's a lot of remakes where they just copy, and it's like they don't do anything original. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me what you think about the sad inspector, and who didn't... Oh yeah, and also the inspector was late. Not only was the inspector late, he was an hour and a half late to 2 hours late. And so I was already an hour and a half into the video when the guy showed up. So he was late. And it wasn't even the inspector who came here last week who wanted to come in last week. It was a different inspector. And so you guys see like how bad this is going to get for them. Really, really bad. I mean, what a stupid decision to make to fuck with someone who owns a cursed object. I mean, it's like, I never wanted that cursed object, but if it's going to help these people not destroy a historic building, then I'm all for it. You know, I'm all for it. And oh yeah, and then after I did the video, the 2.5 hour video, which was a pain to upload, I felt like this strong suffocating feeling in my throat. And I'd like to mention that too, is that there will be a lot of times out of nowhere where I'll feel like I'm being strangled. And so I'll feel like I'm like somebody is physically like strangling me, and they'll just hold their hand on my throat, and it's like I can't even do anything about it at all. And so that happened yesterday as soon as I ended the interview, and it stayed for like 20 to 30 minutes. So that's another eerie thing that happened. See, there's so many things I could talk about with this cursed item that it's almost like impossible to talk about everything unless I spent like a year writing a book or something, which I don't want to do because I don't want to profit off of somebody's death. So and then please subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.